Keita Takahashi no Games for Change Australia New Zealand Festival ni sanka shite kurete arigato. Kono stage wa anata no stage desu. Thank you again, Keita, for being here with us at this inaugural Games for Change Australia New Zealand Festival. And the stage is yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Thank you, sir. Your English, your Japanese is so great. But yeah, hi. But yeah, I don't like to speak in public. But actually, I have to do. Oh, it's okay. You might not be able to understand some of my poor English, but I hope you can fill in the gap with your imagination. I'd like to begin with how I interrupted the existence of video games. I think the quickest way to do that is to show you a presentation which I did at the Game Design Challenge at GDC 2006. The theme was Game for the Nobel Peace Prize. This may sound like cliché, but I still believe we can come closer to achieving world peace if everyone believes in love. So what is love? It is a love of video games. And this is what I think the love of video games is. Yeah. So these are definitely expressions of love. As you can see, we all share the love for video games because they are simply fantastic. But isn't it a shame that something as wonderful as video games are only shared between a limited network of friends? Should the video games we love be limited to such a small scale? No. No. Video games should be able to overcome language and cultural barriers. It's almost a crime if we do not let others know how fun video games are. Who should we reach out to first? Of course, to the people who absolutely do not play video games, those who are away from the joy because of some extra factors. Sadly, there are still many who are doing their best just to maintain a normal life. By far, the number of these people exceeds those who can enjoy video games. This is all the more reason why we need to set off to share the joy of video games with these people. So let's go to the actually. However, when we arrive, we will soon find that it is just as difficult as we had expected. This is simply because video games are a luxury that requires specific conditions and environment in order to play, but we just cannot give up like this. We are people with a love for video games. We are video games romantics with a naive, pure, wonderful, and silly love. It's not too complicated. All we need to do is just concentrate on creating the necessary environments to play video games. I believe that peace is just about living every day of life in good health, but it often sounds overly serious. Also, since this concept is too mundane, we tend to overlook it. Uh, Therefore, it gives us all the more reason to work towards our simple and yet silly goal of solving problems to let people enjoy video games. The result of action that leads to a peaceful world sounds more realistic to me than working on world peace from scratch. Then again, some people may say I'm a dreamer. Actually, the goal doesn't have to be about video games. It can be anything such as sports, art, movie, or anything. But especially, video games are one of good form of entertainment open to everyone. But at the same time, they are luxury that requires money and specific conditions. This is why I came up with this idea. So the video games that we make and play exist only in time of peace and are therefore proof of peace. That existence itself is worthy of a Nobel Peace Prize. All we have to do is to spread this to other parts of the world. To be honest, the thought that this all sounds too idealistic has occurred to me while I was writing this presentation. But I don't believe that it is absolutely impossible. Maybe I am being too naive here. As developers, there is something we must keep in mind. If we are going to all the trouble of spreading the joy of video games to people around the world, we must continually do our best to create video games that people all around the world will have no complaint about, like this is not fun or this is boring. Okay, so that is my presentation. As you can see, this is not an idea for a video game. Why? Because video games require a certain level of peace before you can play them or make them in the first place. So the very existence of video games is a symbol of peace. Making a better environment for playing games is identical to spreading peace. That's what I wanted to say in my presentation. Unfortunately, after the presentation, I heard that the audience wanted to see my game idea. So maybe they didn't grasp completely what I wanted to say. But I think this presentation explains my point of view about video games very well. Video games are not necessities of life. The first thing that survivors of earthquakes or hurricanes need isn't video games, regrettably for us. And also, to really enjoy video games, you have to prepare. You need sofa, snack, drinks, computer, and electricity. Also, you need a comfortable temperature. Not so hot, not so cold. It's really tough. You need a lot of money both to play and to make video games. so I use the word luxury in my presentation. Even though they are expensive, we want to play video games because we love them, and because we love them, we want to make them too. By the way, what do you love about video games? I don't play video games these days because I don't own a console. This doesn't mean that I don't like video games. Actually, I like them very well. So why don't I own a console? I'm not sure the exact reason, but maybe I've come to prefer making games over the playing games. Another reason, I can't find a place to store the controller. The original Nintendo had a place on either side to store the controllers. This is an important thing. I hope they get it right in the next generation of consoles. But maybe motion controllers like Kinect will become mainstream and physical controller will disappear. That would be disappointing for me though. The existence of physical controller is one of the reasons why I love video games. Motion controllers and touch interface are not bad, but I don't much like them. Maybe that's because I'm a game player from an older generation. Why do I like physical controller? Needless to say, interactivity is the most important thing, but the existence of a physical controller might be more important to me than interactivity. I'm not sure if I can explain it well. You put a game into the console, then the game appears on the television, and finally you enjoy it by using the controller. In the case of racing game, the joystick is the steering wheel, and the buttons are the accelerator and the brakes. In the case of an FPS, the joystick will be your character himself, and he moves in sync with the tilting of the joystick, and the buttons are the guns. In the case of Katamari Damacy, the two joysticks are the two hands. When you roll the Katamari, it feels like you roll it with your own two hands. All I'm doing here is just explaining how to play some video games. This is interesting to me though. We can play various video games with various gameplay using just one controller, and it doesn't feel weird. Moreover, when we are playing, we hardly ever look at the controller. When people hold a controller, I can really feel them using their subconscious brains. Their imagination fill in the gaps and turn the controller into something totally different. They don't even even consciously realize it. It's a great behavior. Good job, sir brain. When I'm actually developing video games, I spend a long time matching the behavior of the joystick and the character. I want to get close to the idea in my brain. Adjusting the feel of the controls was one of the most important aspects of Katamari and Noby Noby Boy. So I don't understand why we have motion controllers like the Wii or PlayStation Move. Maybe they thought the game software is boring. So let's fix the situation by changing the game hardware. I guess they wanted to make an easier and more intuitive controller. But as a result, I can't explain it well. I miss the satisfaction of using my subconscious brain to connect totally different experiences. I'm not saying this is true for everyone. It's just personal impression. Also, I'm sure we use our brain when playing with a motion controller. It's hard to feel your brain because it's overwhelmed by your body movement. I also don't much enjoy games on smartphone. Touch screens are very easy to understand, but they are too direct for me. Human beings are simple creatures, but on the other hand, we can be very complicated. So I don't think we should make everything clear and direct. We should also give room for thought, imagination, and feeling. I think we should not make light of the power of our imaginations. Human beings are amazing because we can enjoy various video games using a controller which is totally unrelated to each game's premise. premise. Actually, I like to use this video games controller for things besides video games. I like to adjust the tilt of my shower head with the controller. Also, I like to control the elevator door. Yeah. I think you might have already noticed something. This is not really a story about video games. It's changed into a story about our amazing brain. I'd like to continue the story about the brain a little bit more. Sorry. I'm often asked about FPS in interviews. I guess they want my impression of violence in video games. My opinion about FPS is a little bit complicated. It's fun to throw something at a target, and it's also fun to dodge something thrown at you. So from the aspect of game design, I think an FPS is almost the same as dodgeball. A lot of people like baseball or golf, and you can see archery, curling, and rifle shooting at the Olympics. Apparently, throwing something at the target seems to give pleasure to humans. And if the targets move around and attack us too, that's even more fun. And this is exactly what an FPS is. Dodgeball is a popular game for children in Japan. I think there are some people who think dodgeball is a bit dangerous, but there are no people who say stop it because it's too dangerous, too violent. I think dodgeball is a bit violent, so if we think it's fun, perhaps this sort of behavior is natural. Of course, other games besides FPSs are called violent too, but the question, what do you think about violence in video games, may no longer be meaningful. We always see such a behavior in daily life and we enjoy doing it too. Basically, I'm not really sure if we can call it violence at all. So I can say no to extreme violence, but it's hard to provide a clear answer about violence in game design. It's one of our natural instincts. But some FPS have problems from an enjoyment point of view. These games are just an extension of dodgeball, and yet they often use something tragic like war. It's totally stupid. However, when you view FPS from a game design perspective, in some ways they might be close to my idea of game design. I got the job at Namco in 1999. I couldn't figure out which project I wanted to join at that time, so I started to think of games that I wanted to play and make. That's when I got the idea for Katamari Damacy. I was trying to think of experience that only video games can provide. With Noby Noby Boy, I aimed to make a video game where the fun comes directly from our instincts. Of course, I think game design and game mechanics are very important, but these are logical things. I wanted to make a game where the fun comes from something more primitive. One of the reasons why I like video games is because they overcome the language barrier. So I thought I might be able to provide video games that overcome the age and gender barrier too. If I was able to find this primitive fun that can't be explained with words, we could play it forever without ever getting bored. From this perspective, you might say that the game I want to make is similar to an FPS. Therefore, I shouldn't be prejudiced. I should play FPS or maybe dodgeball. I would probably pick dodgeball though. It's important to think of things from many perspectives, not just the perspective of a maker of games, but also from the perspective of a regular person. You might notice something you would have otherwise missed. I like video games because the controller is great. I like video games because they can overcome the language barrier. And this is the most important reason I like video games because they are fun. It's very simple reason. When you encounter a fun game, you start to imagine those game experiences happen in the real world. It's very interesting. I wish I had a super beam that shot out of my finger. Even though I'm 37 years old, I think about it almost every morning. Then again, maybe not this come from game. So I think video games have the potential to be better still and more fun. And last August in New York, I joined an event called the Baby Castle Summit. It was an event where we attempted to play existence game in new ways. Actually, it was like a laboratory.
We're at the Museum of Arts and Design for the Baby Castle Summit. We had a conversation with Keita Takahashi, who is the designer of Katamari Damacy, as well as Noby Noby Boy. He created designs, conceptual drawings for 6 games, 5 of which we actually built.
Sorry.
3D Pac-Man, I was really excited to do that one, but we knew that would be the trickiest one to build. That one's pretty great. It's a very immersive game.
Yeah, we projected the game screen of Pac-Man all over the room. That's it? Yes, it's so simple. But the behavior of Pac-Man in the corner of the room or in a spot where the game screen projected onto the curtain, that is so interesting. Moreover, the unreal feeling of being surrounded by Pac-Man was really enjoyable.
Side Scroller was
Um,
developed by Ivan Safran and built by a host of volunteers. This is by far the trickiest installation that we had because it is run physically on 20 independent computers. The entire 7th floor of the Nine Museum is a playable game. 4 people have a controller, and as they all start the controller, they basically run around the installation, which is comprised of a cave, a few trees, and it spans the entire room. Then they end up, of course, in the ball pit where the final screen is.
Yeah, this is a side-scroller shooter which was divided onto multiple monitors. To play it, you have to physically walk from monitor to monitor. In the end, we were able to use 17 monitors. This game is a side-scroller, but the first player to arrive the last monitor is a winner, so it's also a racing game. So all the players were running around in the room. This was my ideal playing style. So all my ideas were very simple, but I think I was able to make a new kind of fun. Nowadays there are a lot of new input methods, but But here we change the output method just a little and look at how the possibilities expanded. For Pac-Man, all we did was redesign the map to fit on walls and then project it onto them. I know these ideas are difficult to bring to business like console or mobile gaming, but video games are not just console or mobile games. What does this mean? It means we should make a game arcade where we can play. We are. It means we should make a game arcade where we can play games like this. It's not just temporary exhibition. It's a permanent game arcade with a lot of games that can only be played there. We should gather game ideas from the game makers all over the world and make something brilliant. Of course, we ensure game makers share the profits, and I think we can hold educational workshop at the arcade to make video games a part of our daily lives. In this way, we will have more experience with things that are outside of our daily lives. These days, so many of our experiences come from the internet. I think that's a real place where people can visit will be much more special. And it seems that there are people who are thinking the same thing. A Kickstarter project called LA Game Space was started just last week. Please donate if you are interested. So let me summarize. I've had a question for a long time. Sometimes we appreciated the fun and beauty of the world through movie, art, and photographs. Why do these things make the world feel beauty and fun? I think it's because of their frames. by delimiting our field of view, our attention is easily focused. Human eyes are so efficient. We don't have frames like in a movie or picture. So maybe we don't let us focus on the special things that are close to us. For instance, we should take notice of everything in our daily lives, ask questions about it, and then take action. This isn't limited to just game developers either. We make an effort to know only what we want to know. I doubt we will make great games with this attitude. So we need to wear glasses like this. Wow. And there is another issue. I play video games because I like them. I make video games because I like them. These seem like similar things, but they are actually completely different. Sadly, even if you love video games, it's still hard to make great fun and silly game. Every day I look for the next new game idea, but it's pretty hard to find. That's why I need these glasses. So looking into the future, we have no idea what kind of video games are going to fit. Maybe FPS will live for a while longer. The genre doesn't matter if it's fun. That's what's important. But on top of being fun, if there's also interaction with the real world, I think that would be amazing. By playing this game, if people change their way of thinking or even their lives, that would be amazing. Maybe in this way, it's possible for games to change the world. To be honest, if we don't try to make a game like this, maybe the reason for having video games will fade away. Just think about. Returning to the presentation I showed at the beginning for the moment. Well, at least until the next century, it's important.
Other questions? Thank you so much. Yep.
So you say that you really don't like these new motion controllers, but you're still in love with the old traditional Xbox controller. But like these motion controllers have some affordances that the traditional controllers don't really have. So how do you sort of like with your love for the controller, how do you like use in game ideas like dodgeball, throwball, and
難しい。なんて言ったうん。その遊ぶ人にとってはそれはいいと思うんですけど、開発する方にとってはまだ僕らはより考えてアイデアを練らないといけないと思うんですよ。でそんな外部の機能に頼ってちゃいけないなと。
I think that's fine from the point of view of the player. I think the new motion control is fine. But for us, we who actually develop games, I think we really need to focus more on concept and ideas rather than function. I think if we start thinking about function too much, it affects the final result.
Yeah. Yay, no questions. Great. Oh, great.
What's going to be your next game?
Yeah, what should I do? It's already, thank you.
Anytime.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it every time.
lasers out of your fingers.
Yeah. maybe.
Do you see potential in virtual reality for helmet, for example, the Oculus Rift? Do you see it as an interesting alpha device, or do you see it as another gimmick that's sort of not?
バーチャルリアリティとヘルメットなどはどう思いますか？
That looks weird. Sorry,
That's all. なんかね、かけます
Yeah,
か？
but my face is so big. So yeah. Yay. I know. Capability.
ゲームの持続性
持続性について。
で最も重要な点は何だと思いますか？
ディレクターの柔軟性じゃないですか。ディレクターの柔軟性。
The flexibility of the director.
Thank you again for
Thank you.
taking your time and coming here. Arigatou gozaimasu.
Thank you very much.